Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I am your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been a varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Currently, my daughter and I are coaching one of the best AAU teams in the country. Well, 7 games left, Piston fans. I'm going to miss it. I know a lot of you aren't probably watching the games, but I still love watching the games. I love seeing the growth of our young players. But today, we are going to talk about why the Pistons need to move on from Dwane Casey at the end of the year. And we're also going to talk about the huge game coming up Friday that's going to probably could lock in our the worst record in the NBA, which is significant in the draft. If we're playing the Houston Rockets in Houston. And so if we lose that game, we'll be, I think, pretty much guaranteed to get the worst record. So we'll be guaranteed to get at least the 5th pick. We're also going to talk about some things that we observed from the game with the Milwaukee Bucks last night. So let's get started. You know, we look at Dwane Casey, and I think everybody that knows him, even from a distance, admires and respects him, thinks that he is a decent coach and a fine human being, and has done a lot of positive things to develop our young players, especially, to help them to mature and guide them through being an NBA player. But I will say this, we do not have a good team, and Coach Casey has not been dealt a good hand. We have had, this roster where we had to completely tear it down and just slowly add players and get these young guys, and young guys don't play defense. Young guys make mistakes. Young guys have lots of ups and downs, and our guys certainly have, but I think we have lots of talent. We added Bojan and Burks, and those guys have been really valuable players. So it is, as much as it is at Casey's fault, and then Cade gets hurt, and then other guys have been hurt, we've had lots of injuries, and those certainly contributed. But even when we had all or most of our players, we did not perform. And we underachieved, I think, to some degree. And again, I'm not counting like these games right now when everybody's sitting out, but even before that. So there's guys that coach in the NBA where you see teams that exceed expectations, and we're going to talk about some of those guys. So the Oklahoma City Thunder, they have this young coach, Mark Daigneault, and he, they were 24-58 last year, and they were tanking, but they 37-38 this year, and they had the second player picked in the draft, Chet Holmgren, and who knows how good they would be if they had him. And so they've had great improvement. They got this new young coach that's brought a spark to their program. And Mike Brown took over. He's an older coach, but he took over the Kings. The Kings were 30-52 last year, and now they're 45-30, and they still have games left. So they have a very good chance of they've already made a huge jump over last year. We talked about before how Cleveland, 2 years ago they were 22-50, and then they were 44-38 last year, and then now they're 48-28, and they have JB Bickerstaff, who's a young coach that's just took over in 2020. And so, those are significant things. And, there's coaches that I've talked about before. Dwane Casey was in Toronto. He got Coach of the Year. And at the end of the year that he got Coach of the Year, he got fired. And they hired Nick Nurse. They signed or traded for Kawhi Leonard, and they won the championship. And that was sad for Coach Casey, but other teams have done that where they, the Golden State Warriors, they were under Mark Jackson, they were on the rise, and they had young, they had Klay Thompson, and they had Damian Lillard, and obviously they had Steph Curry. Those were young guys that were just coming into their own, and then he gets fired, and Steve Kerr takes over, and they win the championship. We saw it happen at the Detroit. Rick Carlisle was Coach of the Year. He was amazing. He brought our team and built our team up. We were not very good, and then all of a sudden we got better and better, and then they fired him and hired Larry Brown, and Larry Brown gets to win the championship. And so some of those things we will never know. If Rick Carlisle had stayed there, maybe he would have won a championship. Or Mark Jackson would have stayed there, maybe Warriors would have. But a lot of times I've seen in my lifetime where a young player coach or a new coach has taken over a team and they got a big uptick. So, like I said, there's those young coaches getting hired. We got Joe Mazzulla that's in Boston. He's really young, and they're having, they got one of the best records in the NBA. They had Imi Udoka that was their coach last year and helped them get to the NBA Finals. Jamal Mosley, that's for Orlando, they've had, he's been there since 2021, but those guys have grown and that team has greatly improved and they've taken a big uptick. So, and then there's Will Hardy. He's 34 years old. He looks like he shouldn't be driving a car yet, but he has been amazing there. And their record's 35-40 this year. And they were tanking. Utah traded away all their good players. They traded away their 5 best players or 4 best players. And here they are with that record. And then what do? At the trade deadline, they were doing so well, and then they trade the 3 best players off this year's team. They traded away at the trade deadline. And so anyway, a coach can make a difference. A coach, even a different voice. Coach Casey's been there through all this losing. I feel bad for him. He deserves a better outcome, but I still think that for us to take the next step that we want to next year, we need to get a new coach, and that Troy needs to be in the process of trying to determine who the best fit would be for our team, and that we could get this young core with very talented players to grow together. And like those other teams I talked about, I sincerely believe that we could take a 15 to 20 game jump next year, and I think a new coach would be part of it. Coach Casey, I hesitate to say too much because he said that next year players aren't going to be allowed to make mistakes and still get to play. And so, does he know something? Does he know that he is going to be back? And so that's interesting that he said that. And there's always a speculation that he's going to be moved to the front office after, he has 1 year left in his contract. And so if they moved him to the front office, then, I think people said that. I don't know if anybody really knows, or if the owner or Troy's said that to him, or why that rumor spread, or is it just because people, including myself, I like him, Coach Casey, but I think that we need something new to invigorate and recharge and build with these young guys together. And I do think that even though, defense, obviously young teams don't play well on defense. And so, but does he take some part of the blame for us not being better defensively? And he's had a lot of injuries, but I just do think that we need a new coach. So we'll see what happens there. And the other thing is we got this big game coming up on Friday against the Houston Rockets. We play Oklahoma City first in Oklahoma City on Wednesday, and then we play at Rockets on Friday. Then we have to play at Orlando. We play the Heat and the Nets at home, and then we finish the season at home away against the Pacers and the Bulls. Well, I think the Pacers are going to be tanking, so there's a real chance we could win that game. We'll see if they play Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner that game. They didn't play them against us at our place, but I think if we're 16-59, the Rockets are 18-58, and the Spurs are 19-56. So they would have to lose every game, and we would have to win, at least 3 games. But if the one against the Rockets is the big one. So I'll be doing my next podcast on Friday night right after the Rockets game, because I think that is a significant thing, and it could be a significant point in Piston history. And it remains to be seen. It is going to take some lottery luck or great drafting. But if we get a top 5 pick, hopefully we'll get a good player. And again, I just hope so badly that we get a top 3 pick. So we're going to talk about the game with the Bucks. I feel badly. There were almost a packed house, I guess, last night. And I'm sure people paid, and you pay extra money to come see Giannis. and he doesn't play. And so that's real disappointing. I mean, I'm sure they wanted to rest him, and they figured they could beat us without him. And Drew Holiday didn't play either, and he's a great player. But I just feel bad because they charge extra money for those games just because Giannis is a superstar and people want to pay money to see Giannis. And then he sits out, not because he's injured, but load management. So the NBA does have a problem there. You pay premium prices to get to see stars play, and then the stars sit out when they're healthy. So that I experienced that myself, and I've talked about that before. But the Bucks game was a good game. It's the kind of game I like to see because our young players got lots of opportunities other than Wiseman, and then they had some success, and that's really good. It was a 97-95 game with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And so we were right in there. We were battling, and we didn't shoot great. We didn't shoot great at all. We were 29% on threes, which I think was a big part of us losing. And some guys we got better shots a lot than we normally get, and we still we missed them. But Livers played well, 35 minutes, and he had 9 points, 4 for 5, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, +8, maybe the highest on the team, I think that was. But he is a key player, I think, as a role player. It's been so disappointing that he has been injured so much. And so, and we even traded away Sadiq. And one of the reasons was I think Troy really believes in Livers and wanted to see him play. And then he doesn't play because of injury, and he has all these opportunities. But he got to play last night. He played well. We need those role players. Everybody can't score 20 points on a team, so we need players in your rotation that can come in and score 9 points and hit 4 out of 5 from time to time, and especially if they play good defense like Livers does. Bagley had a nice game. He had 36 minutes. He played 16 points, 6 for 11, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. He made some good passes too. It's fun to see that. But Bagley is a nice player, and I loved seeing him. He catches the ball out at that 3-point line, and he can drive to the basket, and he can spin or slither through people. He's got moves. He's got a bag of tricks, and he can finish around the rim really well. He's knocked down more threes lately. He was 1 for 2 last night. He had that game where he was 4 for 5 on threes the game before that, and so he's showing some signs there. But everybody talks about Bagley. They think it's going to be odd man out. We have too many bigs with Bagley, Duren, and Wiseman. But the trick is, if he's around the league, he's not valued, I don't think, because he was such a disappointment in the draft, and he was the second player picked, and then he was considered a bust, and so he's got a label stamped on him. And then he's had some inconsistencies. He has had too many injuries, but I just think that his value is not that high. Obviously, if we can trade him and get a piece that we wanted, and we don't think there's, a spot for him on the roster, I still think that it's not the end of the world. We're paying him quite a bit of money, but $13 million, but that's not that huge of a contract. And there's always the post players always are getting hurt. So, I know it would be frustrating for any one of Wiseman, Bagley, and Duren if they didn't get many minutes, but because they're all still young. Bagley's still young, even though he's been around a long time. But Wiseman played only 20 minutes. What are we doing? Why is Wiseman? How can we possibly only play him 20 minutes? We only got 7 games left. We want to watch him play. We want to give him chances. He was 2 for 8 in the first half. He shot bad. He had good looks. He was frustrated, but he needs to just battle through that. He comes out in the third quarter. He's 3 for 4, and but then he doesn't get to play. He already played in the fourth quarter, 20 minutes. He needs to play 30 minutes a night or more, and so that's frustrating for me. But the biggest frustration is Duren and Bagley have not got to play together. They played, I think, 9 minutes the whole season together, and last night he plays Bagley and Wiseman together. And he plays Bagley and Duren together. But why not give it a chance? Why not give it a shot? Why not give Wiseman? They don't guard him out at the 3-point line. His shot looks decent. Let him fire, and see what happens. and then still work on it a lot this summer. So that's just some things that frustrate me. And there's some things that Coach Casey's been real slow about even figuring out in the rotation that I've talked about throughout the year. Jaden Ivey, though, is our shining star, man. That guy was electric last night. He played 32 minutes, scored 32 points, a point a minute. So that was awesome. 3 for 6 on threes and 11 for 12 from the line. And I will say that his free throw shooting has been inconsistent, and that's disappointing. But I am just real confident in that young man. He has such a great work ethic, and I've seen his shot change. His follow through is higher. He extends his arm better. He's holding it better, longer. I can tell you from my experience coaching shooting that he's doing things. He's different. It's significant. The way his shots evolved, and I know it's the training staff and John Beeline and people are that he's taking it to heart and really working on his shot. So that was a great thing. He also had he rebounded and he had 8 rebounds and 8 assists. And that, again, that's better than people get triple doubles and they get, 12 points, 10 rebounds, whatever. But I'd rather have a guy 32 points, shoot efficiently, had very few turnovers, rebounding, huge for a guard, drawing fouls. He is going to be hard to stop. He is so fast and he's controlling his body better. He's changing speeds better. His passing is brilliant at times. He did, the game before this, he had 9 turnovers, which is terrible. It's way, you just can't have that. And feel bad from a couple of his passes. He whips these one-handed passes like to the opposite side of the court, skip passes and a couple of times his teammates were like running through the lane and he hit a teammate that the pass wasn't even thrown to. And so that was kind of bad luck, but he's still got to, try to come down from those turnovers and try to be more consistent there. But his passing at times is brilliant. His connection with Duren is really phenomenal. And to think we got a 21 and a 19-year-old that are that connected already is really exciting for our future. So Killian played 37 minutes, more than anybody on the squad. He had 14 points, 6 for 17, which isn't good, 0 for 3 on threes, and his three-point shooting just continues to, struggle, and 2 for 5 on free throws. And so that he's starting to draw a few more fouls, but, again, this year, I don't think we should offer him an extension. We have him signed for next year. I think that we're going to, watch him play next year, no matter what. But I just am skeptical. I was so optimistic, and now I'm not. I think that there's just the same inconsistencies. The difference between a good player and a great player is consistency, and he is not consistent. So, again, we only shot 29% on threes, but Burks and Bogey are our 2 best 3-point shooters. They're not playing. But Duren, 28 minutes, and he should be playing 30 minutes. But he had 18 points. An impressive 8 for 11 from the floor, and a lot of them are dunks, but he's making the moves and getting the dunks. He's going after those offensive rebounds. He had 6 offensive rebounds last night. That's phenomenal. He's only 2 for 4 on free throws. I like his free throw stroke. I'm really optimistic that he is going to be a good, decent 3-point shooter. He's certainly going to draw a lot of fouls. And the coolest thing for me is he had 3 assists, but his assists aren't just basic, easy passes where he's just catching it and kicking it out to a 3-point shooter that just happens to knock down a shot. He makes some passes in traffic. He has great vision. He has a great feel for the game, I think, and it's only going to get better. So, but people after the game, they say, "Oh yeah, we got out rebounded, and we're playing 2 bigs, and they're not doing good, and they're getting but points in the paint, 50 to 38." And we had the 50. Usually we get killed in points in the paint. So the 2 bigs did help with that. Second chance points, 21 to 20. And everybody acted like we got killed on the boards. Well, we did get killed on the offensive boards in the third quarter, but overall we didn't. And we got out rebounded 50 to 47 against the Bucks, and they got a big team. They're playing, a lot of big guys, and so. That's hard. So anyway, we got that big game coming up Friday. I'm really excited to see what happens there, and I'm hoping for a loss. And Houston's been playing a little bit better lately, and so I am thrilled that you're listening. I'm thankful for each one of you that listen. Please share with a friend. If you know anybody that likes the Pistons, tell them to give this podcast a listen. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. You just click on the subscribe button. It doesn't cost a penny. They're not going to come looking for you or send you a bunch of information or anything. And leave a thumbs up. And then if you're listening on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. Do something nice for anybody today. It can be a smile. It can be a word. You can give somebody a call. You can help someone with a little chore, whatever you can do, but do something nice to somebody today. Thank you for listening, and go Pistons.